Did head coach Josh McDaniels take a shot at rookie quarterback Aiden O'Connell following this week's loss to the Chicago Bears in his post-game press conference? And could his comments he made yesterday in the post-game presser give us an indication of how he truly feels about Aiden O'Connell as a player thus far into his rookie season? Take a listen and you be the judge.
Ultimately, the termination of starting Brian Hoyer over Aiden.
We've looked. I've seen him practice every day, and I've watched him, and I saw Aiden in the LA game, and had an opportunity to really understand what was going on there, and saw Brian last week in the New England game, and so just made the decision to go with the veteran guy and try to go out there and play a solid game.
But is there ever any consideration just to kind of see what you have in Aiden and continue?
Yeah, but this isn't the preseason anymore. You know what I mean? We had an entire week of practice in LA. We had an opportunity to practice them. And there was some good things, and there was some other things that we needed to work on and fix, and obviously get better and improve.
So as we heard, when Josh McDaniels was pressed with the question of whether or not there was any thought process of seeing what we had in Aiden O'Connell in yesterday's game, Josh McDaniels responded with, "This isn't the preseason," and he did it in a rather sarcastic way, almost making it seem like his decision to go with Brian Hoyer was the obvious choice to make. McDaniels goes on to talk about the LA Chargers game after that as well, where Aiden O'Connell started and where he got a good chunk of the starting reps for that week, and essentially he stated that he got a chance to understand what's going on there with Aiden O'Connell, whatever that means exactly. So really gathering these comments is kind of confusing for me, because from what I gathered in these comments was the fact that it feels like Josh McDaniels does not feel like Aiden O'Connell is ready to be put in as a starter. It seems like Josh McDaniels feels that the young rookie still has a lot to work on before he feels truly comfortable putting him out there on the field, and hence why he went with Brian Hoyer in yesterday's game. So then one should also ask the question, was week 4 versus the Los Angeles Chargers a preseason matchup? In that case, why did he start Aiden O'Connell versus the Chargers? It doesn't make sense to me, and based on those comments, I feel like McDaniels is being kind of harsh on the young rookie. Yes, he struggled early in that game with fumbles and stuff like that, but ultimately, he came back, and say what you want when it comes to Aiden O'Connell's performance in that game. We were much more competitive with Aiden O'Connell out there in week 4 against a much stronger opponent in the Los Angeles Chargers than we were this week with Brian Hoyer against a 1-5 football team plagued with injuries on the roster up and down, with their backup Division II quarterback that nobody's ever heard of, and arguably one of the worst football teams in the National Football League. We weren't even competitive in that game. So really, based on this, what does this say about Josh McDaniels' ability to evaluate talent as a head coach? Also, too, another thing I wanted to touch on was he was asked whether or not they considered benching Brian Hoyer at halftime yesterday. Take a listen.
Any thought on making the quarterback change at halftime?
Look, I don't think it was, everything was all the quarterback's fault. Certainly, I thought there was some missed opportunities that we had. But he hung in there and kept playing, and put us in position to try to go down 21-10 if it was, So, not really. You know what I mean? Not really.
So really, I cannot believe that Josh McDaniels thought it would be a good idea to stick with Brian Hoyer yesterday going into the second half, especially after what we saw from this offense in the first half, only able to put 3 points on the board. This offense was struggling just to get first downs in general. Brian Hoyer was very inaccurate with the football. At that point, why not try something new? Why not try to see if the young kid could give you a spark going into the second half? And look, if Josh McDaniels really feels like Aiden O'Connell isn't ready to be out there, then to me, him and general manager Dave Zeeler have done a terrible job preparing for this season, considering the fact that we have Jimmy Garoppolo as a quarterback who has been known for getting hurt when it comes to his injury history. So you have to be prepared for this, and they should have gone out and signed a legitimate backup quarterback. Look, this is no disrespect to Brian Hoyer. It's not his fault that he was put in this situation and essentially signed as the backup quarterback for this team. But in my opinion, Brian Hoyer, if he's on this roster, it should be at the best a practice squad guy and essentially just a player coach to help develop the young quarterbacks on this roster. But he most definitely should not be the backup for this team, especially when you have a starting quarterback with the injury history that Jimmy Garoppolo has. You saw it yesterday. Brian Hoyer really shouldn't be out there on the field. he really shouldn't be on an NFL roster as a quarterback. Let's be honest, if Josh McDaniels was not a head coach or an offensive coordinator, the guy would probably be retired at this point. Really, this regime had an entire offseason to sign a veteran free agent quarterback, whether that be somebody like Jacoby Brissett, Carson Wentz, who's still available, Cam Newton. Look, whoever it could have been, that's really not the point here. Really, we should have had anybody else at the backup quarterback besides Brian Hoyer. I ultimately thought that they were going to roll with Aiden O'Connell being the backup quarterback, and if Jimmy Garoppolo ever got hurt, well, this was going to be the perfect opportunity to get a real talent evaluation on what we have with Aiden O'Connell going into NFL draft where it's loaded at the quarterback position. I think this year we definitely have to get a good sample size to see what we truly have in Aiden O'Connell, whether or not he's a guy that we can move forward with, rely on, and depend on for years to come, or if he's just a young prospect with a lot of work. Then at that point we know what we have to do going into the draft. So really, if Josh McDaniels doesn't have the confidence in Aiden O'Connell as it stands, like I said, I think him and Dave Ziegler have done a terrible job managing this team throughout the offseason. And really, another point I wanted to make about Josh McDaniels is if you watch the entire full video on Josh McDaniels, the post-game presser yesterday, if you haven't done so and you want to check it out, go ahead and do so. Now, I will warn you, you probably will be very annoyed by most of the answers he gives, to be honest. But anyways, throughout that whole video, if you listen, he never comes out and takes any accountability for the loss yesterday, even though it's clear as day that the Raiders were not prepared and had lost this game before it even started. We lost it on all three facets of the game. Ultimately, we lost it by making the decision to go with Brian Hoyer and just be so conservative on the offensive side of the football. Not even just that, on the defensive side of the football, we were super conservative as well. That also goes on Patrick Graham. He made no adjustments. We were getting killed in the run. I would have liked to see us put more people in the box, try to do something different to get back into the ball game, but none of that happened yesterday. Josh McDaniels even went as far to say that I thought we were motivated going into this game. I thought our guys had some quote-unquote juice out there. Like what? Like, bro, what is he talking about? What game was he watching? This team that I watched yesterday just looked unmotivated out there. Most of the guys looked like they didn't even want to play out there. We just had terrible tackling on defense, just sloppy football all around. And for a head coach to experience a loss like this and not once say anything to the extent of, oh, I have to do a better job preparing for this team, the loss is on me, anything like that, to me, that's just mind-boggling to me at this point for head coach Josh McDaniels. You definitely got to question the leadership when it comes to McDaniels. Is he a guy that has any accountability? Is he a guy that can really look at himself in the mirror and say, I have to do better at X, Y, and Z? Look, you really start to question the thought process of this guy as a head coach, and Josh McDaniels seems to be losing the locker room at this point, and the fan base has officially turned on him. So I don't really see any scenario where he can come back from this. The guy has blown it when it comes to being a head coach in the National Football League. It seems like he's making the same mistakes he made back in Denver, but now here with the Las Vegas Raiders. And he's really just blown it when it comes to showing the NFL he has what it takes to be a competent NFL head coach. There's more than likely will be a long season for the Las Vegas Raiders, as it seems like Mark Davis isn't going to fire him anytime soon. But Raider Nation, let me know what you guys think of Josh McDaniels' comments in the comment section down below. But with that being said, that is all I have for you guys in today's video. Anybody that's new to the channel and you guys love Raiders related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.